It's one of those things that that everyone thinks is actually difficult, but it's one of the easiest things, in my opinion, that we get to do. Real estate is very easy as it sits. So recruitment of staff is exactly the same as recruitment of listings and finding people to sell their property through you. What you want to do is prospect, warm up relationships, build trust over a period of time, so that when it comes time for either that person to leave where they're working, or they believe that we're the best option for them, then we're their first choice. And that's done over time. So here in Australia, I use social media. The best recruiters like Dane, he uses social media very strongly from that overall kind of attraction agency. Then he whittles it down and he becomes friends with people on social media, whether it be, all of the different platforms, friends with them, starts liking their content and then sharing comments. After we have been able to build a relationship with that prospective recruit, he gets to then ask permission, and he's earned the permission to ask it, for a coffee meeting. And I'm not sure if anyone's, I read a lot of books and I read books from outside the real estate industry. And one of the best books that I've read in the last couple of years was a book called Never Split the Difference. It was a book that was written by a hostage negotiator from the FBI. And he spoke about one thing that I've now introduced into our recruitment platform, which is the whole point of every meeting with someone that we're hoping to recruit into our business. There's two goals. First goal is to get the second meeting. So get permission to catch up again and have a second meeting to extend the relationship. Second goal is to try and find the black swan. So the black swan, as Jim Voss in the books calls it, is the one problem that agent or that person has where they are that we can provide a solution for. And it's reasonably easy to try and uncover what that problem might be. It might be in the conversation while we're meeting with them. Nanda, do you mind if I ask, I see that your days on market have extended. How are you going with stock management? Or do you mind if I ask, you're carrying a lot of stock, a lot of properties on the market. Have you got a problem? Is it taking longer to sell them? Or I see that your market share has grown, but it's kind of slowed down. Why do you think that is? So maybe their market share grew as they grew as an agent, but now they're at capacity, so they need a team. So there's many different things that we can pick up and value add. And our sole goal is to try and find out what that is so that we can give them advice they may not be getting where they are, and then understanding that most prospects or most recruits will move at their pace, not at our pace. We all want more people in our business, and Dane says this all the time, but the moment he tries to speed up the relationship is the moment that the prospects usually go cold on him. So making sure that we understand that a recruitment prospect moves at their pace, not at our pace, and always just making sure we've got permission to add value to them without them working for us, so that when the time comes when they value us more than they value where they are, and we all remember, or we all know when that happens, it's because it's when that prospect calls us instead of us calling them, then we know that we can start proceeding at a faster pace towards getting them into the business. So that's the recruitment side. He uses social media. He does walk-ins at their open homes or at their inspections, introduces himself. But we all know the things. One thing about Dane is everyone knows who Dane is in his marketplace. So making sure that us as leaders are attractive to potential recruits as well is vitally important. So being the leader that people want to work for. Now we move into the culture piece. Harcourts does culture better than a lot of the other brands and best in market, in my opinion. But self-culture, one of the things that Dane is always speaking about in his business is everyone's personal leadership. So he holds himself to a very high account of professionalism. So if he says if he's the most professional in his office, everyone will try and be like him. And remember, when we're recruiting, often we recruit people similar to us. So a young principal will often recruit young people. And Dane does have a two-part recruitment strategy. So he recruits established agents, but he understands that the negative part of recruiting an established agent is the impact that they can have on his culture, because they have a lot that they've learned elsewhere. But he also recruits 50% of them are new starters, so fresh to industry. They've got their license through him, and he's been able to build them up. So when we talk about making them better, that is where Dane truly comes into his own. So that comes down to the constant training and leading from example that Dane does. Dane is the type of person that would never ask his agents to do something he would not do. So we recently had a big call-a-thon. So we called it the Game of Phones. So it was a national phone prospecting session. So it was 2 sessions of 45 minutes, and we created 2,600 real estate appraisals in 2 lots of 45 minutes. I did a live cross through over to Dane, and Dane was in his office with the hat on the phone, making calls himself. So leading from the front, first and foremost. Secondly, is structured, non-negotiable time every week for training. So he understands that training together is vitally important. Training straight after the sales meeting on a Monday, and then training at the end of the week around scripts and dialogues. So training is fundamental for his business, just almost as much as auctions are. So in between those trainings, Dane truly understands that to make an agent or one of his staff better is they need access and time with him. So outside of the group training that he does, it is vital that Dane and Rob both do one-on-ones with their staff. So every week they have a one-on-one structure that is non-negotiable in the diary, because Dane understands that group sales meetings is management, people management. Individual one-on-one meetings is leadership. And we are all in the leadership business here. That's the job that we do every day. We lead people, and the amount of change that we can affect on the seller and the buyer of the property is actually, if we're not selling it ourselves, is done directly through our agents. So we need to be able to help our agents do the best for our buyers and sellers. He understands that through and through. He understands that every agent is different in what they require out of him. And that's why the one-on-one meeting is so vitally important, because a new agent to his office required completely different things to the agent that's been there, 6-7 years and is writing $1.2 to $1.8 million in fees. That the person that has just joined him needs Dane or Rob, at 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night to know how to negotiate a deal or how to get a listing. Dane is an amazing person because he's present at whatever he's doing. He doesn't have the phone in his hand. Wherever his feet are, and this is his saying, wherever my feet are is where I'm present. Be present where my feet are. So if it's a one-on-one meeting, he doesn't take his phone. All he does is take his notepad and his presence to help them. So being present and being available is vitally important. And now we're talking, Dane's got 120 staff. That takes a lot of time. So now he's also got Rob as a sales manager and business partner who takes over. And Rob's job is those young agents that are coming through. So we created for Rob what we call the Wolf Pack. And those young agents are actually led differently than the older agents because they need something different. So the Wolf Pack actually meets every morning with Rob. 20 agents meeting with Rob every morning to go through daily tasks because that's what those agents require to be successful. The older agents and the ones that are doing exceptionally well actually need something completely different. And in some cases, it's almost like therapy. It's what's happening with their personal life, or how do I go from 600 to 900,000? How do I build a team? How do I manage a team? And that's where Dane has an amazing ability to lead everyone individually and differently. Over here in Australia, 50% of the commission that the sales agent makes goes to them and 50% goes to the office. So that is how the office gets their income. And what I call that 50% that goes to the office is the payment for leadership. So those agents that are doing extremely well and could very easily go out and open their own office and make 100% of the commission, they stay because they value the payment for leadership, that part that they pay Dane, the part that your staff pay you as a business owner. That is the payment for leadership. So we have to always understand or always have an idea in our head. How am I leading my staff and what am I giving them in return for what we are making as a business? So vitally important that we always know where everyone is at. And so we know how to recruit them, or we know how Dane recruits. We know how he makes them better. How does Dane retain staff? Retaining staff comes completely down to presence, which we know is how he makes them better, but most importantly, an open culture. So Dane doesn't have closed doors in his office. It is completely open plan, and he took his door off his office. So there is nothing that is actually off limits. So anyone can walk into Dane's office and have time, which is a truly amazing thing. And off the back of that, he's built a culture of inclusivity and openness that it has become like a family. So he, over there, he has Thirsty Thursdays. So every Thursday afternoon, they have drinks as a group. They have prospecting and pizzas on a Tuesday. So Tuesday nights, he provides them pizzas and they all sit back and work together. After their in-room auctions, they have a war cry or a connection ritual. So they all actually sing out coastal, 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 which is their war cry, and it commits and connects all of them one-on-one. So it's as I said at the absolute beginning, it truly is an attraction business. He understands that the office, and you guys are going through and have been through a much rougher time with COVID than we have, and it's ongoing, which feels terrible. His staff actually wanted to race back to being in the office, because the one thing that Dane understands is that the office is no longer for people to come in and buy property off Dane's office, but it's for his agents to feel comfortable, safe, and happy working at. So having everyone coming into the office every day, wanting to be there, because the one thing that I've learned through COVID, and no matter how much we think we are productive at home, working from home, when we are together, when we are working together in the office, we are more productive. I know that for a fact. I've seen it. So when we're working together and when we're collaborating, when we're working as one community, Nandal said it, just before, being able to bring Australia, Bali, and all of Indonesia closer is really, really important. And that goes for all of the international business. It's something that I've been working on here with New Zealand as well. We've just had our New Zealand partners, Joe and Brian, over here this week to see how we do things here in Australia, and vice versa. 2 weeks ago, I was over in New Zealand watching how they do things differently. We are part of such a large community, over 900 offices, but unless we make the most of that, of that opportunity, we don't get the value out of it. And the one thing that I'll suggest to everyone on the call, and that I'll tell you that Dane does, is Dane leans on us. Dane rings everyone in the support team, in the corporate team here, at the drop of a hat. He knows that if he wants to get the most value out of being part of the broader Harcourts community, that he, as well as us, we have to engage with him. He has to engage with us. And he's forever curious. He wants to know what Polly is doing at Gold. I'm not sure if you've watched the numbers and the international awards. 3 years ago, Dane's office was number 3 internationally. 2 years ago, Dane's office was number 2 internationally. Last year, it was number 1. And he's curious to understand what everyone's doing. And he integrates that. When he goes to a conference or when he has one of these meetings that he comes along to, we've got him at Noosa with the rest of the SJC over the next 3 days. When it comes to these things, he doesn't try and take a million notes and then try and implement everything. He chooses 3 things that he wants to take back to his office that he can definitely implement. So implementation plan straight off the back of learning. Forever curious. And as I said, having connection within the network. He talks to Polly, he talks to Tony, all of the guys over in New Zealand all the time, to Martin Cooper over in New Zealand. Martin Cooper and Dane are very similar type of characters, but have gone about their business very differently. Martin Cooper has opened many, many offices, 24 now, whereas Dane has 2. So they've gone about their business very differently, but have ended up in a very similar position.